Hey, I'm Janet Lynn Boswell, a faith-based certified life purpose coach and survivor of childhood sexual abuse and religious and family trauma, sharing what I wish people understood about me and other survivors. So welcome to A Survivor's Perspective. The truth is, I was afraid to start a new podcast because I was just becoming comfortable with my first podcast, Journaling Revelations. And I'll put the link in the description if you want to check that out. But just when I was getting into a groove with that and had gotten comfortable with presenting myself in that way, basically speaking to a camera and instead of having people in front of me like I'm used to teaching, when I had finally felt like I had become comfortable with that, making that adjustment, I felt God leading me to let that one go and start this one. And I could tell toward the end of those last few videos that I uploaded for Journaling Revelations that He was moving me into something new, because I actually started to forget to actually read something from my journal. And the whole point of Journaling Revelations was for me to be able to authentically, honestly, and truthfully share myself, my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, my thought processes with you, because writing has always been the easiest way for me to be the most honest, truthful, and authentic, right? So when I felt God leading me to move from that one into this new one, I was nervous, and I'm still nervous. You see, I'm still kind of finding my words and getting used to this. And it's so interesting to me because, like I said, I'm used to teaching in front of people. But whenever you do something new in a new way that you haven't done it before, it is scary. It's just scary. And you worry about, is anybody gonna watch? Is the algorithm even going to show it to anybody? But then you have to remind yourself that if it's of God, God will bring the increase. And I believe that God decides the scope of my ministry. And I pray and believe that those who are meant to watch it or listen to it will watch it and listen to it. It'll be for who it is for. So, and then in that case, you have to release all of that to God and trust God with that. My job is to do my part, right? So the first thing I had to do was be honest about the fear. Because anytime you open yourself up to the public, you don't know what's going to come with that, especially on the internet where people feel so brave and bold to, maybe even make up false accounts or whatever, but just to say whatever to whomever, whenever, because they feel like they are anonymous. But I'm going to have to trust God with all of that too, right? my job is to be obedient to what I feel God calling me to do. And that is to hopefully help some people understand the mindset and the heart beliefs and heart space of survivors. And then for the survivors themselves to help you feel seen, heard, understood, and loved by God. Okay? So as I was dragging my feet a little bit with going ahead and just starting to record and set up this new podcast, I was thinking and praying about it and crying out to God in my shaky knees, and asking God, Lord, please just help me, give me the courage to do this new thing. And I started thinking about my process. And typically my process is to start something at one place, and then gradually, as I sort of outgrow that place, then move to the next place. Outgrow that place, then God moves me to the next place, and on and on. So what you might not know is that I actually have I guess my entrance into the public was my blog. And this was back in 2017, I believe, where I started writing a blog. And initially it was on WordPress. Now it is on my website, janetlynnboswell.com. But it's called Pulling the Emotional Trigger, Confessions of a Child Abuse Survivor. I had always wanted to do a podcast. I am a writer. I feel most comfortable writing when it comes to expressing myself, when it comes to expressing what I believe God has given me to share. And so I took the leap. I was obedient. I started that podcast, and it had, hundreds of people who read it every month, which to me, I thought was amazing, and still do think that is amazing, that anybody wants to hear, first of all, or read what you have to say, and that God is using something that you have been through to help and bless other people is amazing to me. So I'll put the link in the description if you want to check that out. But I started with what was most comfortable for me, and that was writing. And my premise behind this this blog, and the reason why I said Confessions of a Child Abuse Survivor, was because I was so used to hiding. I learned to hide as a little girl who was being consistently sexually abused and just abused in many different ways. I learned to hide. I learned to hide physically. And I learned to, in that I would hide in my bedroom closet. And I learned to just hide myself in general, just hide me. I don't even know how to describe it because it was such a natural thing for me. So for me to share the deepest, what I felt like darkest places in me and darkest parts of me, it was easiest for me to do that through writing. And what I did was write about anything that had been causing me shame, anything that I had been was ashamed of, because shame had become such a part of my makeup. And I knew that in order to confront the shame, I would have to expose the things that I was feeling, or the things that I felt were shameful. And in doing that, shame lost some of its power over me, a lot of its power over me, right? So I wrote that and I published once a month, I think the first of every month for a couple years. And then it was time to let that go and move on to Journaling Revelations, my first podcast. And I was scared. And then I, did that for about a year and a half or so. Pretty much every second and fourth Sunday, I would upload a new video. And then I started to feel like I needed to take a break from that. Now, I thought, ladies, I'm happy to announce that early bird registration is now open for the third annual The Overflow Life Women's Empowerment Conference. And it will be happening on April 3rd and 4th, 2026. That is the Friday and Saturday of Easter weekend, so hopefully that will make it easier for those of you who wanted to come one or both days but weren't able to because of your work schedule. Hopefully you'll be able to make it either that Friday or that Saturday, and preferably both days, because trust me, the way the Holy Spirit moved in this year's conference and the previous year's virtual conference, you don't want to miss it. So take advantage of this early bird pricing. Go ahead and register today for either one day or both days, and come and get refreshed and renewed and encouraged and inspired and supported in community with other women, like-minded women, in a safe and supportive environment. I hope to see you there. Now, I thought, and I want to say it was last December, either last November or December, when I, quote unquote, took a break from that podcast. And I thought that the break was going to be a few months. I figure early 2025, I will be back with a new video. But deep down, I knew that God was moving me into a new season, and that it was time to let that go. Because as I said, I had gotten to the point where I was just sharing and teaching, and I forgot to even read a journal entry, right? Which meant that it was time to move into the next phase, which is this podcast, where I'm able to be more transparent and honest with you about everyday things and what everyday life is like for me, without having to read it in my journal, because I felt some safety there, right? It was explicit, it was real, it was raw, but I was still reading it. It was still easier for me to read something that I had written, whereas now I'm able to just share it, just verbally share it with you. So can you see the growth from the blog to the first podcast, where I had to read the revealing and the transparent things from my journal, to now where I'm able to just share them with you. So I thank God for that. So if that is your process, I just want you to know that it's okay. It's okay. That might just be how you need to do things, and it is okay. God does not, I don't believe, unless God is telling you to do something different and you're just not doing it. And, and I will say sometimes I drag my feet on some things, but I am working on getting better with that and obeying more quickly. But I do, even if I'm dragging my feet a little bit out of fear, I do eventually get to the place where I do obey. Now, like I said, I don't ever want it to be where I'm so slow to do it that I miss out on what it was meant to do, or that my dragging my feet becomes disobedience. So the Holy Spirit will let you know which one that is for you if you seek him on it, and if you're open to hear what the Spirit is saying to you. And then there comes a point where God says to me, like, okay, you got to speed it up. You got to get better with doing what I tell you to do. Just do it. Surrender your fear to me and just do it. Okay. So, I did it. I recorded the first video, which hopefully you got a chance to see. If you didn't, you could go back and watch that. And it was called, what was it called? I didn't see the pedestrian standing at the crosswalk. And I talk about how going through a crosswalk, not seeing the man standing there waiting to cross the street. And so theoretically, I could have potentially hit him, and how that sent me down this spiral of triggered thinking. Let's call it that. It sent me down a spiral of triggered thinking, but thankfully I have grown enough and healed enough and recovered enough where I didn't stay in that place long. So go back and watch that or listen to that if you haven't already. But I did it. Right. And then, and I felt good. I felt good about recording that video. It was honest. It was truthful. It was me. It was vulnerable and transparent. All the things that so many of us as survivors are terrified to be, right? Because we don't know, what we're opening ourselves up for, who's going to attack us, who's going to harm us, what's going to happen as a result of that, right? So I felt good. I did it. But I should have expected what happened. And what happened was, which is pretty typical whenever I step out and do something new and different, something that potentially exposes me to more people, in quote unquote, more ridicule, or more abuse. What else? More misunderstanding. But I have learned that some people are determined to misunderstand you for whatever reason. They might not like you, or they don't like something that you said, or they don't like how you said it, or something you did, or how you do it, because it's different than how they would do it. And you cannot control any of that stuff. So the only thing you can do is pray about it, and move on and do what you're supposed to do, right? What God is calling you to do. But that night, as is pretty common for me, I had what I call an anxiety dream. And so normally I try to write down any prophetic dreams that I have, and oftentimes I'll write down my anxiety dreams. I call them anxiety dreams. And I thought that I had written down that particular dream. And I actually wrote the title in my notebook where I write them down. And then when I went back to look at it to share for this video, I realized that I had gotten distracted doing something else and never wrote down the dream. So, of course, what I did was beat myself up. I was so mad at myself. But then I realized that me being mad at something that I didn't do was not going to miraculously make the words come back to me or make the dream come back to me. So then I prayed and I said, I asked the Holy Spirit, if it's meant for me to share the details of the dream, then please bring it back to my remembrance. And that did not happen, which says to me then that it's not so much the exact details that's important. What's important is what the dream represented. So, it used to be from the time I was a little, abused little girl up until recent years, maybe 3-4 years ago, the anxiety dreams would be about me running away, trying to run away from a threatening person. And I would run and run and I mean I would fly, I would jump over buildings, I would tunnel through the earth trying to get away from this threat. And no matter how fast I ran, how high I jumped, how far I could fly, whatever the case, whenever I got to wherever the final destination was, that person would be standing right there. In other words, there was nothing I could do to escape it. And that, like I said, I would have those dreams on a regular basis until very recently. And I believe what changed there was because I stopped running from fearful things. I stopped running from emotions and memories and things that feel scary to me or triggering for me. I have blocked out so much of that abuse that the effects of that would still come out in my dreams, if that makes sense. So the good news is that in recent years, I don't have too many of those dreams anymore because I'm no longer running away from those things, because I realize that the threat, that actual threat, is over. It happened. It happened, and even though it feels like it's happening in the present, I'm able to remind myself that it happened. Not only that it happened in the past, but that I survived it. Okay. So now the anxiety dreams are more like I'm always a day late and $1 short. And it's always some form, some version of that theme. The details might be different. The people might be different, although there's a lot of times it'll be the same few people. But the overarching scenario is that there will be something that God is calling me to do, right? And I am maybe dragging my feet, maybe unsure of what to do, maybe too distracted with other things, too unfocused, maybe sleeping so distracted that I'm missing the preparation that I need to do for this thing. Or it could just be a fear of that I did it wrong, and now everybody's watching and everybody's laughing and criticizing me for doing it wrong. That was the type of dream that I had that night after I recorded the first video, not the intro, but the complete video for this podcast. I had that kind of dream where, hey there, thanks for being here. I really appreciate you. And because I like to keep these videos under 30 minutes, I needed to break this one up into 2 parts. So please stay tuned for part 2 of this video. And in the meantime, if these uploads, if my channel has been beneficial to you, if you find value in it, I just ask you to please hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, set it to all so that you don't miss any uploads, including part 2 of this video. Okay, thank you. See you soon.